Hello there.
Hello there, and welcome back to the Sky Guys podcast. We are covering today episode 6 of Skeleton Crew. Another fun episode in the books here is we do not have zero friends again. We do have a lot of friends. This Our host Mike Phillips here with us here today. The newly the new chief of the pirate gang, Nick Fraietta, is here. Nick, how are you? And he's muted.
Not good. Lost the mute button early. Doing good. Um, 6 episodes down, two more to go. I think we're ready for a finale now, so I'm really excited because we have two more episodes when I think it could have been one.
Yeah, and I love the pirate getup here for the YouTube viewers.
That's right. Yeah. I figured it fits the theme of the show.
Yes, that's at the scene of the show here. Unfortunately, Pete Consadori cannot be with us here. He's still trying to run away from the mother crab on Lenupa, but we got a great guest with us here today. The great Max Rauer's back with us. Max, how are you?
I'm good, and I reserve my right to challenge the captain for control of the ship.
So you want control of the podcast?
I want control of the podcast under the pirate code. Duke
Yeah,
it
well,
out.
I might relinquish that to you pretty easily. I might yield.
Man. Well, yeah, always happy to be back.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And Max, how you liking the show so far?
So, I will begin with just a real small anecdote. I remember when Disney was announcing new shows, and they announced this show and The Acolyte, and I was like, man, Skeleton Crew, I don't know what this is. I don't care. Acolyte, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
And my opinions are now completely flipped. This show is really good, and I am very surprised that it's really good because I didn't really know what to expect. But the characters are enjoyable to watch. It gives you kind of a different take and look at the Star Wars universe than we've seen before. Obviously, there seems to be some, Jedi elements, but like the pirates, getting a deeper dive into that, even like the Ad suburban planet, that's kind of weird and different. And then there's just like, like when you're a kid, right? All you want to do is go into the Star Wars universe, and you want to, be a Jedi and go fight the dark side, or you want to, be part of the Rebel Alliance or whatever it is. And that's kind of what the show is. It's just you have these like four kids that are thrust into this grand adventure. And so there's this like sense of relatability and kind of speaking to your inner child that I really appreciate. That I'm like, these kids are living out what I wanted to do when I was like 10 years old, right? So it's just like a nice, lighthearted, enjoyable show. I don't know. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of this show so far.
Yeah, I think Nick would agree with me that like us here on the podcast, we were pleasantly surprised. We were talking a long time. Oh, like they're burying this show. They push it back a year. Like no, everything's gonna be good, and then we're pleasantly surprised. They've been enjoying the ride.
Yeah, we have been. There's just a problem with viewership, I think. I mean, we've gone over that with the like they dropped it out of the top 10 and whatever it is. And now if you look at like their social media comments, in past shows like Acolyte, every single social media comment was this show stinks, or you got the opposite of saying this show's not bad. Come on, guys, like whatever. For Skeleton Crew, every comment is, should I watch this?
Yeah,
No one's watching it. So
yeah,
it's just like, and then the replies are, yes, you should watch it. It's good. And then the same week, or excuse me, the next episode, same thing. Should I watch this show? Should I watch this? Like no one's watching it, and it's unfortunate because it's a good show.
yeah.
It
Maybe the time of year, but I will point out as somebody who's been watching some holiday movies on Disney Plus, like a lot of these, whether it's Home Alone, whether it's Santa Claus, like they're directing you as the next thing you should watch is Skeleton Cruise. They're trying to get people to watch this.
I think that it's just like it's less sellable in terms of the plot and the idea, and I think people kind of come at it and they're like, what is this? And that's maybe some of the hesitation, but I do think like, yeah, you should watch this show. It's actually it's like a really good show. Uh, it's gotten good reviews not only from critics but from fans, which is not something that I think we've seen in quite a while from Star Wars, maybe since like The
Mando 2,
Mandalorian.
Mando 2 maybe.
Yeah, Mando 2. I mean, I think Mando 3 got decently reviewed, but definitely like yeah, Mando 2 I would say is the last time that everyone was like this is really good and the fans were like this is really good.
Yeah. So
Don't forget about Andor.
yeah, don't forget
Oh,
Andrew. Yeah.
Yeah, he was
yeah. Was Andor before Mando season 3? All right. They're few and
Mm,
far between. It
before
feels like
three,
there's
after two.
Yeah.
yeah, there can be a lot of vitriol in the Star Wars fan base, and there can be a lot of like the critics think something's really good, the fans think something's really bad, or vice versa. This feels like everyone says this is really good. So I'm shocked that more people aren't watching it, but I'm also not surprised given that it was sort of like, what is this kind of a thing?
Yeah, for sure. Let's get into some stuff here as you do always here. Nick, since Pete's not here, I'll tell you, if you want to subscribe us on the Sky Guys, they do so Apple Podcasts, Google Play, TuneIn, Spotify, Amazon, all usual suspects. Simply search for the Sky Guys here at podcast platforms. Final episodes there here. And just in the suffering friends, you don't get these episodes on the weekend. So if you want to get them as early as we drop them, which could be within a couple hours of the record here on Thursday night, you should be subscribed.
You have to subscribe. It's a click away. And at this point, if you're not subscribed, I don't know what to tell you. Hit
Yeah.
the button.
Yeah, it's a button. And you can also check out the social media as well. People, Nick, how can people follow us there?
Sky Guys Podcast on Instagram, Twitter X, and on TikTok.
Yeah, because you can, speaking of that, we can go to our social media comment of the week. This is from our discussion last week on TikTok about Andor Season Two's budget. This comes from CS and a bunch of underscores on TikTok. So Andor is the best thing to happen to Star Wars since Star Wars. Disney is backing the right horse. So, Max, what did you think about when we heard about how big the budget for Andor 2 was? That it's bigger than any movie they've ever done.
I think it's the right call. I mean, this show is it's also very well received, although I guess unlike Skeleton Crew, it's actually thoroughly watched. And I think if they are able to expand on it and do more with it, then even more people will watch it and it'll bring them more money. So yeah, I think absolutely they're backing the right horse.
Something interesting I sent on the tails of this thing. I don't know if you saw it, Mike. This is the highest budget they've done in the Disney era, but this is the lowest budget per minute of anything they've done.
Yeah, so it's like spread out.
So although the budget is 645 million, for example, The Force Awakens was 640 budget, so roughly the same, but this is almost 10 times the length of Force Awakens in terms of total length. So per minute, this is actually the cheapest project they've ever done.
Yeah, so we'll see though. I mean, like there's
But
a
I
lot.
don't think that really means anything, honestly. Like, I don't
Right.
care. Season one was awesome. I don't care. I don't even know what the budget was. Who cares?
Yeah, a lot of pressure on season two.
A lot of pressure on season two. My only fear is that it gets a little too Hollywood. I don't think they'll do that though, because they're bringing back the same writers
Yeah.
and whatnot. I don't think they're going to do that. Just like with Game of Thrones, how it was so good in the beginning, then it got very Hollywood at the end. My fear is that something like that would happen. But again, with the same writing crew and the same goal by them, I don't think it'll happen.
So in other words, you don't want to see Jack Black, Captain Bombardier show up in season two of Andor.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
Well, they also can only, they only have enough material for a plot of so long, right? Because we all know what happens to Cassian Andor at the end. And the question is, how much can you stretch that out between the series and Rogue One?
Although the
And I
funny
don't
thing,
think you want to stretch out too much.
the funny thing with that, Max, that the original pitch you remember was that this was going to be 5 years and 5 seasons. Each season would be a year, and then they did one that said this is so grindy we can't do this for 5 years, so we're going to condense it to two and have one be 5 BUI and the other four series season arcs condensed into one season two.
Okay. Well, if that's what they're doing, that seems like the right plan. Like you don't want to overextend it too long, right? Like I heard, aren't they ending Mandalorian after season 4 or the Mando movies the end? Like that also seems like the right call.
Allegedly, we don't know for sure what's going on with that because remember there was this whole thing. Remember prior season three that Favreau came out and was like, "I already wrote season four," and then all of a sudden it became a movie, and now they're not saying anything about what's happening to Mando after this movie. So I think maybe Celebration April will get some answers in that front, but I would not be expect a ton until maybe closer when the movie comes out.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm glad they're not stretching it out then too far, and it seems like they're putting their money in the right place.
Yeah, because from what I understand is that like Tony Gilroy, when they did season one, the whole idea is like we're gonna do 12 episode seasons for 5 seasons, one for each year. Then they did so it took so long to do one. They're like, we physically cannot do this. It'll like destroy ourselves, like bodily wise. So like let's just, make the one extravagant, then we'll sort of condense everything down.
I like that. I mean, I'm excited to see what it is then.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what it is here too. And I'll give Nick a second here in terms of getting the news here. There's not much going on this week, so I'll sort of handle it here. The one thing I'll note here is that Sean Levy, who is the director of Deadpool and Wolverine, says that he's working with screenwriter Jonathan Tropper, who did the Adam Project with him on his Star Wars movie. Are you familiar with the Sean Levy Star Wars movie?
I I am not. I think I am not. You want to give me a recap for the audience who doesn't know?
Yeah,
Oh,
so
I'll tell you, it's a movie that's not coming out.
yeah, so basically, it's another one of these things that, like, remember back in like 3 years ago, with Taika Waititi, Star Wars movie was the biggest thing. It's like
Yes.
this is sort of the same idea. Except now it's Sean Levy, and Sean Levy, because they just saw Deadpool over, everybody wants to see what he does with Star Wars, and Nick is convinced this will never get made,
I am convinced that all of these movies will never come out.
except for the one they finished.
Right? Yeah. Like all of these movies that they talk about, I just until I see it, I don't believe it.
Yeah, so that's the only real update here, Nick. I think I covered the news here, so I think like that. There's nothing much to add there.
Yeah, nothing to add. I don't even believe it, but again, we'll see.
Yeah, we will see. Remember also too, Sean Levy works on Stranger Things, so like he's pretty busy right now too before we even get to Star Wars.
And when is that coming? The fifth one?
It's
Summer?
supposed to be this year.
Just this year. We don't know exactly when. All right.
I know exactly when. I know that I would guess they might try and push it closer to Halloween and sort of have it be seasonal.
Oh yeah. All right.
The fifth and final season of Stranger Things is expected to premiere on Netflix in 2025. Oh, I thought I read November 2025. That's not very helpful at all.
Yeah, they don't know yet. All we know is that like they just dropped Squid Game 2 and Squid Game 3, alleged rumors coming in June. So might be a quick turnaround to 2 and 3 of that.
Squid Game 2 is coming in June of next year or June of this year?
Squid Game 2 just came out like right after.
No, sorry, Squid
Squid
Game
Game
3.
2 came out
Squid Game
last
3.
week. 3 comes. Wait, just watch Squid Game 2 and you'll understand.
Yeah.
But Squid Game 3 is coming out in June. Okay.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the rumor, and it's supposedly the final season.
Okay.
It is.
I just started watching Squid Game 2, so I guess I gotta get through. Is it good? Like, do you guys like it?
Nick loved it. I'm behind.
I loved
to
it.
get to it.
Okay. You liked it though?
I loved it.
good.
They just needed to. And I'm not going to spoil anything. They needed to market it as season 2, part 1, not season 2, but they
Yeah.
didn't, and that's why I think there's some backlash on the internet because people don't realize that 3 is coming in 6 months.
Oh, okay. That understood. That makes more sense. Okay.
So this is a Deathly Hallows situation, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, so
All
let's
right.
let's get into this episode here. We'll talk about Zero Friends again, episode 6. So Nick, give me your general takeaways. The episodes have been, most part they've been around like 30 minutes, maybe some at 40, but like they seem to get a lot into their time frame. They seem to understand pacing better than almost any other Star Wars show has done recently.
They do. I have one major complaint, and I just want to get it out of the way immediately so we can go positive for the rest of the episode because it's the only thing, and it's not just this episode specifically, it's to this show, to all shows, they need to be longer. I'm really getting tired of this. I know you just said they fit a good amount of content in, and you're right. But like, for example, we watched Squid Game. It's an hour and 15 minutes per episode. This
Yeah,
is 28 minutes with plus credits.
yeah,
34 on a good day. They need to be longer.
yeah. I
You're
think
just telling, basically, you're telling me is I had a movie and I stretched it out into a show because we were afraid to go in theaters because no one's going to go. And that's the thing that's getting really frustrating. I really just want these episodes to be longer. It's my only negative. I just wanted to get that out of the way.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting point here, Max, too, in terms of the episode length. Like they Star Wars, it must be a Disney thing where a lot of these episodes tend to run short compared to like
Yeah.
your standard broadcast times, like you like a 42-minute episode. But like for what they've been given, they seem to have done more with it than shows like Acolyte, parts of Ahsoka had this issue with points. Like the shorter episodes, they seem to get the most out of.
So there's a balance with episode length because the shorter episodes make it easy to watch, but I agree with Nick that like, especially if you're telling this big compelling TV arc, you want to give a series time to breathe. And like I think Andor was an hour, right? And I'm pretty sure Mandalorian was also 40 minutes. So it's good
Some
sometimes
of
to
them,
have it. But
some of them were short, and it's just frustrating.
well, in any event, I have not minded it as much, but I do agree that like I don't know. There are times that I look at it, I'm like, yeah, this could be like 10, 15 minutes longer. Like you could fit in a couple more things, tie it a little bit closer together. Like the very first episode, I thought like maybe that could have been like 20 minutes longer or so, and you could have gotten like combined the first and the second episode a little bit. I don't know. I go back and forth on that.
I look at like I look at what show just came out? Acolyte.
Yeah,
Acolyte episode, I think it was 4 and 5.
they
That's one episode.
they split it in half basically.
Yeah, it's one episode. You split it in half. It's just like it's just frustrating for the viewer because I don't know. Maybe it's because we're watching it weekly and we're not binging it, but it's frustrating because of that.
Yeah,
So one thing that was helpful, and maybe this is why I have a little bit of a different take, is that I actually I binged it. So I watched it over maybe the course of like a week. And
yeah,
so I was like, oh, okay, this isn't that bad with like the half an hour thing. Whereas if it was just little drops every week, then it's like, oh, like I want a little bit more. On the
Right.
flip side, I don't know if you guys watch Silo on Apple TV. That's a great show. You should watch it. Mike, you watch it?
I do not. It's on my eventually list.
Uh, I really enjoy it, but and those episodes are an hour, but there are times where I'm like, it's getting padded like a little bit. You know, maybe they could have done better if it's like just get to the action, get to the point. Don't have it be an hour, be it like 40 minutes.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think there's pros and cons to the shorter episode approach. I get it if it's like just being dripped out at like on a week by week basis. You just want like a little bit more to hold you over.
The thing with the runtime, I'll also point out here is like, yes, the longer runtimes are good. You actually have to be able to do stuff with it here. I'll give you two HBO examples. The Penguin, good with the long runtimes. They seem to know how to like build their story out. Doom Prophecy, not so much. Like that's the way I'll put it that way. I think that's the Max. I don't know if you've seen either of those shows. That's a good like summation.
I have not, but I get the point. Is you don't want to pad it too much. If you're going to have an hour, you need to fit it into an hour. And there are times where, it's good to have shorter. It keeps the writers focused.
Yeah, and I would also say Nick here too. I think like the thing that's helping them with the half hour episodes that like they really have the story basically tight on the kids and Jai. We're not doing too many random side characters, not shoving in a cameo here. We're not going to like see random New Republic things here. It's like we're really tight on this story and the character, and I think helps because like it's
Yeah.
a tight 34 or whatever it is.
And you put a compelling mystery out there that's really interesting, like what's going on with that ad and how did we get there? And you pair that up with some characters that are interesting in their own ways, and you make yourself a good show. And that's what they did. They found a way to make the really, really hard task is finding kids that aren't annoying. And they did it. They found kids that aren't annoying. I don't think anyone's annoyed by any of them. And you found a story, like I said, a mystery that's compelling. So there you go. There's your success. We talked about Stranger Things a couple times,
Yep.
and it fits that
Star Wars
vibe right
Stranger
away.
Things.
You found kids that aren't annoying, and a compelling mystery. At least the beginning of Stranger Things is all about like what happened to Will when he went missing. Then it
Right.
turned into a whole different series. But you have a compelling mystery and characters that aren't annoying. People are going to watch it.
Yep,
Right.
for sure. That's the future of the show. I think is on those kids. That's a few different discussion though. Let's get back to this episode though here. So I think the best effective way to do it is I think we should just do the John stuff up front because it's very quick. He's out of the episode in like 10 minutes and then do all the
Sure.
kids together. So I think the Jod stuff is fun because we see at the beginning like Max the Jod sort of runs out of the vault. He's got a bunch of treasure on him and like he gets grabbed by Bruce's gang, who Nick turned out they did not all die. It turned out we were right that that Bruce just sent some randos to the front of the line.
Yeah, that would
Yeah,
be such a horrible, unbelievable way to send that character out.
Yeah.
yes, yeah. I did love that. Like we do also have like him showing up with the treasure. Like Mac, I feel like when they were watching this show, these last couple episodes, I feel like they just had like Pirates of the Caribbean playing on the loop in the writers' room because I feel like there's so many pirates references in this series.
I I have not seen all the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. And I saw them when I was a kid, so I actually don't know all the cameos. But
I mean,
I
like
do
the plot references. I feel like a lot of the plot elements are sort of like ripped from Pirates.
gotcha. Maybe that's why it's good. But I don't know. I enjoy Jod's character. I feel like he will end up being a good guy or like chaotic good kind of guy. Like he's had his turn and then he'll come back. Uh, but I think that they're setting up an interesting clash between all these pirates who are going to go search for Ad and then the kids and these sort of innocent families that, I don't know what they're doing there. I don't know what the purpose of the planet is, but they obviously are not very prepared for some sort of pirate invasion.
Yeah, they're not. So anyway, we see Jod gets grabbed by Bruce's gang. X-Wings do show up to fight the pirates off because the loop apparently called for help here. Like I did think real quick on the kids, it was funny that the kids like, oh, these are X-Wings. They're good guys. They're gonna save us, and they just fly right over them and ignore them completely.
That was a good little joke.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So anyway, Nick, we get back on the ship. Brutus sends his Jod to death via airlock. So you get that's the Star Wars getting thrown overboard. He gets shoved out the airlock. But he gets a last bill via Pirates code. Then we get to see this very fun sort of speech where like he's like pontificating. He's like, I have an hourglass. I can take as long as I want. So he basically spins this whole story of Atten's like, I found it. Here's my Old Republic credits. You want to have your own sea farm. You want to have a new ship. Like, come with me. We can have unlimited treasure. And then it does the job here. This Brutus convinces him, okay, like we're gonna go with you, but like if there's nothing there, you're dead. So I did think good use of Jod's last appeal here.
Yeah, so two things. One is I don't think he's sincere. He's not going to share, but he is telling the truth.
Yeah,
That's one thing. But two is you notice that the woman who kind of spoke up and said he deserves his what do they call it, last rites or something?
last appeal.
Last appeal. It looked like he was kind of doing something with his hands and it almost looked like he was doing a Jedi mind trick onto her.
Yeah,
So I don't know. I'm still under the impression that he was a Padawan during Order 66. That's been our guess on this podcast that he's wasn't a full-fledged Jedi at the time, but he does know the ways of the Force, and he was at least in teaching, kind of like Cal Kestis at the time. But yeah, it looked like he was doing something there to have her say that because she looked like she was like looking at him in a way. Like I don't know. If you
yeah.
go
So
back and rewatch it, maybe you'll understand.
I Yeah, he did give her a look. I know exactly what you're talking about. I thought like maybe she knew him or was sympathetic to him. It could have just been a force or a Jedi mind trick. My guess is also that he was a Jedi who went into hiding during Order 66 as a pirate. I guess it would make sense if he's a Padawan, right? Because then he hasn't fully bought into like the light side of the Force yet.
yeah, because like we'd say like how far is it from Order 66 to now? About like 40 years.
Um,
Years,
I'd
30.
have
When
I'd have to
when
do
does this take place?
Mando time.
9 ABY to 19, so 19, 28 years or
Yes.
29 years. I think it's 10 ABY actually.
Yeah, so like I gotta look up how old Jude Law is in real life because like, let's say here like he's 52 in real life. Can you want to make the argument he's 13 in like when Order 66 happens, he's like 43 now in the show?
I'd say in the show he could be like 50 even.
Yeah. Yeah, I say he's a 20 if he's a 20-year-old though, he's probably bought in to the Jedi like stuff full throttle.
Yeah, because most of the Jedi are trained from birth, right? So maybe he was a Jedi Knight.
It's possible.
I mean, how sure are you that a 20-year-old will be fully bought in when you had 19-year-old Anakin throwing things around the room saying it's not fair? I mean, I know Anakin was a different breed, but
I think it's more saying like you have like a teenager who's like not fully emotionally hormonal, like gets runs in some pirates, uses his force powers, his parlor tricks to get in with the gang, and he sort of like becomes swept up in the life of a pirate and becomes
he was 18 at the time. 18 plus, what did we say, 29 years?
yeah, it's almost 50 then.
Late 40s? I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's where we leave Jod's crew here. So I think the meat of the episode though is the kids here, and we do see another like this like little Peter Pan as they slide down the chute. KB gets hurt. We turned out here that Nick she does memorize the coordinates home, but we do have a little criticism here because she's not happy with Fern's leadership. Because Fern says we're gonna climb the side of the mountain and get back to our ship,
So
and
did she get hurt on the slide? Did I
yes,
miss that?
she got hurt on the slide and she comes out.
Okay, because I was wondering where she got hurt. I thought maybe she
It's
got hurt in the last episode, but okay, that makes more sense.
like she lands, she bashes her
Uh,
head. She bashes her head like it's on the ground.
Okay, I kind of sided with Fern a little bit here, and I feel like the episode didn't want you to. I feel like she was telling Cave like Cave just not saying anything, and she's like, "What? What's wrong?" Like, and he's just like sitting there silently. Like, if you have a problem with my leadership, tell me.
Oh, they do a good job explaining why Katie doesn't want to say anything. And it's very
You-
relatable to like a kid sort of dynamic.
Well, I feel like it's very hard to for someone to know they're doing something wrong unless someone tells them you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, this is
Well,
also
that was,
yeah.
I
Go
think
ahead,
that
Matt.
was part of the struggle of the episode, right? And Wim was kind of like, you should tell KB that, but KB's like, I'm too afraid to say anything because maybe Fern won't want to like spend time with me if I can't do anything, and then I won't have any friends anymore. So I don't know. I think that's part of
I
the
think that's kind of
dynamic.
the point.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was the lesson we learned here. And then we do see while this is going on, Wim's off his own adventure. He's like making friends with talking crabs, and he's like, look, they can follow them to help. So it's
And
just
they just, it turns out they're just like parrots.
yeah. Yeah, we see that
And
Wim
just
it,
repeat what you say.
yeah,
They don't, then he wasn't actually telling them follow us. He was saying follow, so they were saying follow.
yeah. Yeah, and it's too bad Pete couldn't be here today because I would love to get Pete's take on these crabs after the fun we had with Ezra and his crabs in Ahsoka. But I do think here this thing we get to change the group dynamics here, Max, because like Wim and Fern obviously disagree on who to follow here. Wim says, "Let's just follow the crabs. They can lead us to adults, and so they can help us here." And Fern says, "The ship's right there. Let's just climb." So they end up splitting the pairs up basically where Fern and Neil decide to go climb the ship, and Wim and KB follow the crabs. So Max, I think this is a fun idea for an episode to like break out the normal pairs and get this different character dynamics.
yeah. It was nice to see them interact, and I kind of feel like the characters like push each other and help each other in different type of ways, right? Like Fern kind of helps Neil with his cowardliness, and Neil kind of helps Fern be a better leader. And then Wim helps like learn some technical skills from KB, but also helps KB find a little bit of a voice. So it is nice to see them play off each other. Also, that crab monster, I could have sworn that it was like in Jedi Survivor or Jedi Fallen Order, but is it just like a wholly original thing?
I think it is. We have a video about the crab. We'll get to it in a little bit, but like
Oh, okay.
they put out a good behind the scenes of it. Apparently, that was all practical effects, Max.
Wow, that's very impressive then. I thought that was like 3D. That was really good.
That was stop motion entirely.
That's Man, that's awesome. I think Star Wars like I know that's what they are traditionally known for, and then they kind of moved into 3D more with the prequels, and it's nice to see them kind of bringing that back.
Yeah, I feel like Mando was Nick was sort of where they sort of went back to the more practical stuff outside the volume.
Yeah, sure, sure. I really enjoy the split of the group here,
Yeah,
which we're talking about, like with Wim following the crabs and whatnot, because you learn a little bit about all the characters. I feel like we actually don't learn anything about Wim here, but we learn that KB has a voice and she's willing to speak up when she's at least feeling comfortable to do it. We learn that Fern is willing to help and is a good leader in that sense, like she helps Neil, right?
yeah,
And we also learned that Neil's not blindly following in Wim's footsteps. Is that you kind of get that impression? He's just a loyal sidekick. He's not. He went against Wim, but you still see that he has a heart. And he's like, whoever gets there first, we'll just pick each other up.
yeah,
Because like he's not out to get anyone. He's a good guy. He's a good guy, like a good kid, and he's not just blindly following Wim. He's doing what he think is best. What he's doing, what he thinks best for the team.
yeah. And Max, this
You
is
learn a lot about all the characters, which is really great.
I think it's excellent character development as well because like
Yeah,
mixing these pairs, I'll give you the opportunity to learn new things about each of these characters here. And although Wim is sort of like I'm sticking to this take, he's just Star Wars Charlie Brown, where everything he does just goes wrong. So I think like other than that, everybody else we learn something new about them this week, and will in a sense.
I mean, he's Wim is like the cleary eye or like the starry eyed. I don't know. I forgot. The word is on the tip of my tongue, and I can't think of it. But Wim is just like he's enjoyable because everything to him is just like an adventure. But sometimes he's a little bit more reckless in what he does.
Yeah,
So I think he has a valuable role.
yeah. Yeah, I think it's a good role for sure. Let's get to some of the. Let's do the Fern Neil stuff first because Fern and Neil climb the mountain, and like at this point, we realize that Neil's like struggling because like he's not as physically fit as Fern. So creative decision there by Fern there, Nick, where like she basically just like finds a rope, just like ties him like puts like makes like a little harness system where like she's basically helping Wim stabilize and climb up the ladder with her. So like incredibly strong to be able to support her weight and Neil's going up the mountain.
yeah. It's you don't really get much from these two. I feel the episode was more about. I think this is KB's episode. I think,
Yeah.
but they found a way to utilize these characters in a way that they didn't seem like they were doing nothing. So good job. They, like I said about Neil, it turns out he's not just following whim, and also Fern showing that she's a good leader and can help everyone. It's not just out for herself, which is kind of what they made it out to be at the beginning of the show, and
Yeah.
that's not the case with her. I mean, I keep seeing online, oh, it's a filler episode. Like to me, filler episode means there was character development and there wasn't just things blowing up.
Yeah. I think people just understand what the idea of filler actually is. That's, I think, also a misconception.
Right. This is a character development episode and push the story into last episode they were in a vault. And this now they're all on the way to Manhattan. Things happened. The story moved forward also.
Yeah, I'd say like the most fillery episode we've gotten in the Mandoverse era was probably the Jack Black episode. I think like that's probably the most fillery we've got.
Don't remind me about that one.
They
Yes.
went to that like party planet or what or like the
Yeah.
Kingdom Planet. I can't remember the name of it.
Uh, yeah, well, it was the episode where Jack Black and Lizzo got to hang out with Grogu for half an hour,
Right.
Yes.
and
Yeah.
Mando kicked the battle droid for some reason.
What is is Neil the same species as Max Rebo? I've been wondering that.
I think so.
I think they've got on record said he's not.
He's not,
Not the
but
same
they look alike.
species?
No, they said they're two different species
Oh,
Interesting.
because
They look very similar, but I guess we've just never
I
seen
think
another
you're right. I think you're right.
elephant
yeah,
species. Huh.
because Neil's an elephant and Max Rebo is something else.
So
Max Rebo kind of
you're
looks like
right. I don't know Max Rebo's species off the top of my head. I have to look, but Neil's species is a unique species to Star Wars, where it's just called Neil's species.
like Yoda
They
species.
haven't, yeah, they haven't gone into detail on it yet.
Oh,
Where Max Rebo is a ortolan, an ortolan from the planet Orto.
Yeah, if you look at them close enough, like the closer, then you can tell there's very distinct differences between the two of them. Just
You can, especially when you look at Neil's parents, you can see the difference. Max Rebo, you would assume is an adult,
yeah,
and you see we see his dad very little bit, but you see his mom, and his mom is nothing like Max Rebo.
yes,
yeah, interesting. Okay.
yes.
I wonder if they'll do anything with that, or it'll just be kind of a mystery like Yoda.
I think it's gonna be a mystery like you. I think if they try to get too into the weeds about what that species is, I think they're gonna lose people.
All right.
Oh, I think they will. I just don't think in this show. I think eventually they'll open it up. I don't think they're going to keep it a mystery like the Yoda species, though, like deliberately.
Yeah, I think it might be one where it's like I don't think it's urgent that we find out what species he is.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so either.
No, not it's not part of his character. I was just
Yeah,
curious.
I think it'll just eventually come out.
Yeah, maybe somebody else just like name maybe.
Oh, a comic or something will just go into. They'll introduce another one and learn more about the species or something. Or whereas Grogu and Yoda species is just that's the point. We're not supposed. It's like the
Right.
Joker. You're not supposed to know.
Yeah, that's true. So we also see here we get the Whim KB side of the storyline here where for like KB starts shutting down as her optical implants go down. This sort of goes into like disability territory where we have like sort of like the after school special moment of the week basically where like Whim gets instructed by KB how to fix her implants. She says, I had this accident when I was a kid, like I need these implants to function. And like she says, like, like I'm scared to tell Fern that like I can't climb the mountain because I physically can't do it. And I want her to like spend less time with me because I can't keep up with her. So like I thought like for as cringy this could have been, they handled it pretty well.
I agree with that. It's also, I mean, we've seen this tech since episode 5 with Lobot.
Yep.
So it's interesting to see it elaborated on. You see this guy with the tech, but you never necessarily know how it works. I think this is the first time that we're seeing it on screen. This is how it works. This is what it does. But I agree completely. It's handled very well. Um, and it's a nice like moment of vulnerability for KB that obviously comes into play later on in the episode.
Yeah, Nick, we talked about this a little bit in the Lego Star Wars stuff. This is sort of another good like teaching moment for parents watching with their kids, sort of like, like even like if you like don't need to worry about, like if you feel you can't do something, don't be afraid to tell your friends. As real friends will stick by you. You can't do everything they want to do.
Very true. Very true.
So it's something like eventually, like when those of us who are parents want to watch these shows with kids, that's something we can point out here, like the Lego Star Wars lessons.
Yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of the situation here with KB, her optical implant here. Max, very cool point. Also, like we saw with Lobot, I think from episode 5, that his basically for, I guess it would be for hearing based on how we see it. Now hers is just because she can't see.
Is it because well, it's because she can't see or she like can't function at all, right? Because she like starts to completely shut down without it. I thought it was everything.
Yeah. I think it might be everything because like the visor's like if you've seen Star Trek Next Generation, it's the Geordi LaForge visor, basically.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so I don't know
But
if
I
it's
thought like, well, when she hits her head, she can't see, but she's not able to function at all. I thought because of like the rusting and
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, Nick, if I remember correctly, like did you say basically like there was an accident when she was a kid and basically she must have had a traumatic brain injury and the implants how she's like functioning?
Right. Yeah, that's my assumption.
Yeah. Because she said like since the accident, so like or maybe she was like riding a like I know she was riding the bikes at first. She had a bike accident where she like fell off and like really like, hurt herself.
Pretty cool though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
cool
Star
stuff.
Wars medical tech.
Yeah, yeah, not the kind of tech we usually get on this show, but we also have some stuff developing here. We see that by the time Fern and Neil get close to the top, they see their ships being towed by the Lenupa spy like ship. So they pull a badass move. They just really just jump from the ladder onto the ship. So credit for them actually sticking to land. They had a big target, but that's gotta be terrifying. It's like 10-year-olds trying to just jump on a flying ship where you miss, you're dead.
Oh yeah.
Honestly, Fern's athleticism really impressed me in this episode. Like she's 10 years old, she's climbing up this like giant ladder, and then she's jumping onto this ship. Like,
While carrying Neil's body weight, essentially.
yeah. I don't know what kind of fitness classes they have at Adden, but clearly Fern was pretty good at that.
Maybe she's got the Anakin Skywalker pod racing genes.
That's true. And oh, and she is top of her class. I guess that includes an A plus in gym.
Yes, that is for sure. You see that go on here. Meanwhile, we get another episode of Wim is wrong again. So we see Wim and KB get to the crab. They get to Mother Crab. They realize, oh wait, they're not going to help us. They want to eat us here. So it continues the trend, Nick, that everything Wim does is wrong. He remarks on this episode, I was like, why can't I ever be right once?
Yeah. Well, maybe at the end of the show, he will be right once,
Yeah.
and that's what's today.
Yeah. This was Max, are you loving the Charlie Brownness of Wim?
I'm enjoying it. Like he's not the heart of the group, but he's like the bright-eyed enthusiasm. I still cannot think of the word, but it's just enjoyable because he's like propelling everyone forward. Like, oh, we should do this. Oh, we should check this out. Like, I don't know. It's like that nice sense of childlike wonder. But obviously, when you're confronted with the real world, it's like, oh, like things are not as simple as I think that they are.
Yeah, so I'll tell it to this way. Like, I'll give you a good analogy, Max. Like, and parents, if you were listening with little kids, you can send them out of the room for like 2 minutes here. Like, he is the child who will at 12 years old still believe Santa Claus exists.
He will. Oh, yeah, that's a very timely analogy. I agree with that. And there's like an endearing sense to that where he's so innocent, but then it's also like you're in these very dangerous situations, you're gonna get in trouble. You can't just like think everything's an adventure.
Yeah, and speaking of this crab here, I do want to share that this crab was entirely practical effects. It's pretty cool. It's all stop motion. Star Wars put out a behind the scenes video about the making of the crab. That was pretty cool. I wanted to share on the YouTube version. You can see the visuals of it. I'm gonna put it up on the screen now. Mike Phillips on YouTube. You're checking that out here. But let's listen. It's about a minute long, so you can go here and check this out. See this video about the behind the scenes building the crab. Some of the Easter eggs they threw into it. So let's go ahead here and pop that up. All right, so here we go.
The way that we approach the design process on Tet'niss, the mama crab, Doug basically said to me like, okay, it's a giant kind of crab monster. It puts stuff on its back. I really wanted to make sure that when we were putting the junk on it, it wasn't just random stuff. I actually tried to use as many little bits from model kits that were used on the original films. That's our little R2-D2. He's in there all rusted up, and we actually even made him so that he's animatable, so you can move him around. So there's a little C-3PO over here. We made him so we could move his little hand.
Hi, I'm C-3PO.
There's a K2SO. Oh, I think that might be him right here.
Congratulations.
Just you and me, baby.
I That's
Not,
pretty cool.
yeah, they got a lot of fun stuff they hid in there.
So these guys, like, they clearly have an appreciation for Star Wars, who's making it. Like, not just the Easter eggs, but like the storytelling.
Yeah. Yeah, Nick, what'd you think about that video?
Very interesting video. I want to take a more in-depth look at what's on that crab. I'm sure it's Easter egg heaven.
Yeah, I'm sure there's I think maybe after now they'll put like a screen share with a crab up and just give you like a little display like, oh, this is here, this is here, this is over there. It's probably stuff on there they didn't even show us. They want to keep it to a minute.
Also, something I just thought of that has nothing to do with this episode, but does have to do with Star Wars and just kind of blew my mind is we're recording this episode in 2025. It's our first record of the year. And where we are right now in 2025, we are as far away from The Force Awakens as we were The Revenge of the Sith when Force Awakens came out.
Yeah, it's gonna be the 10-year anniversary of Force Awakens and the 20-year anniversary.
That's at the end. That's at the end of the year, of course. It's not exactly with the months, but like we were 10 years away from Force Awakens right now. We were 10 years away from Revenge of the Sith when we saw Force Awakens.
Yeah, it's wild. We may have to do some anniversary content for some of these couple movies, Nick.
That's crazy though.
The beginning of the Disney era. It's hard to believe.
And I would assume the 20-year anniversary they'll put Revenge of the Sith back in theaters.
They might. I don't know if the Force Awakens back in theaters. I don't know if people are ready for that yet.
No, I want to see Revenge of the Sith. I want to go see it.
Yeah, yeah. I suspect that'll happen.
That'll be awesome.
Yeah,
I can see the prequels getting like a little bit remastered, or not. I don't know if they need to be
They
remastered.
put Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones back in for 20-year anniversaries, right?
they put Phantom Menace in last year for 25.
25. Oh, so maybe you have to wait 5 years. I don't know.
Yeah, I think they might wait for a 25 for Attack of the Clones. I feel like Phantom Menace they will do. I mean,
They put Phantom Menace back in theaters in 3D like a couple years ago, right?
it was like 2011, I want to say, and then they were going
A
to do
couple of years ago, I said, okay, never mind.
I remember there was a whole thing. They're going to do the entire prequels in 3D. Then that project got scrapped once Disney bought it.
All right. Well, interesting.
I have a question going back to Skeleton Crew.
Yes,
You guys think Wim is force sensitive?
I do not.
No,
You do not.
I think he wants to be a Jedi badly, but he's not.
I think so. No, because of his dad.
Yeah.
His
I
dad.
mean, the actor's dad, not the character's dad. This Mike will fill you in that we had a guest appearance.
Somebody
From
commented on some of our
actor's father, who claims that there is no connections to the greater Star Wars universe in this show, in terms of characters and other things like that, and Force and whatnot. And he claims that this is just a standalone show. So I don't think so.
Well, but you saw John Norwood being force sensitive, right? Or Silva's force sensitive.
Yeah, my point being though, I don't think they're going to have that because it creates like we're going to do another show type of situation.
Yeah, I think like that's something I don't think we would even see until the finale, if at all.
Well, it's kind of what I thought. I don't know. There's just like I guess that he wants to be a Jedi, and because it's like a little bit of a family-friendly show, I thought, oh, maybe he'll end up being a Jedi. But if there's not a connection and that's already been confirmed, then I guess I'm wrong.
Allegedly confirmed. This person is claiming to be the father of the actor who plays Wim. So,
Oh, that's a pretty interesting
Yes,
thing.
the father of the actor who plays Wim.
Wim's actual father.
the alleged,
He told us that all of our predictions in our character draft, which we will get to, excited for you to see the teams for our character draft, says they're all wrong. None of them will be in, which to me is just wild because he should not be saying that kind of thing. If it is true, he shouldn't be commenting on that publicly. But
as a lawyer, you would think that an NDA would apply to something like this.
I would think that he would have signed an NDA and he would get in trouble if he was divulging plot points. And probably he'd have to sign for his son because his son's underage.
And he shared this stuff on our TikToks. So
yeah, he commented on our TikTok. So
No, that can't be right then. Either he's wrong,
and at first I'm like, there's no way this is him. He has the same last name. He looks exactly like Win.
either he is not who he says he is, or he's very wrong, or he is in very big breach of his contract.
we'll find out. We got 2 episodes to see if he's actually if there's a breach of contract situation, but we'll wrap up the plot here on the episode where we basically see that Fern and Neil basically end up saving them because they picked them up on the ship. They get tossed off by the tow truck droids. They basically have a reconciliation, and then we get a recreation, Nick, of basically the end of Toy Story 3, where their ship is getting like pulled into the fire, and then they're trying to escape. It doesn't work here, and Wim says, "You know, I'm gonna hit the magic button to combust the hull that SM-33 told us not to push at the beginning of the season." So he pushes it.
Fern starts to push it, doesn't he?
I think Wim wants to push it.
Oh, okay.
Then Fern says, "Go ahead, push it." And then she pushes it, which basically sheds its skin. I think that the ship looks much better without its exterior hull, and then they fly away. That's the end of the episode. So, what do you think of the homage there, the Toy Story 3 stuff, Max?
I didn't even think of it as an homage, but now that you say it, I agree with you. It was a cool scene because you see these kids who are just so lost and sort of babes in the woods in the galaxy, like really coming together as a crew. Like Finn or Fern embraces her captain role, KB's like the engineer, Neil's the co-pilot, Wim is the gunner, right? And it's just like cool to see them. I also am thinking to myself, I wasn't sure where the turret was on the ship. And I was like, I didn't realize at first that it was on the ship where that was, I guess, coming out of the exoskeleton or the hull or whatever. So I thought when she pushed that, I'm like, oh shit, did they leave Wim there with the garbage disposal? I thought he was further down the ship. I mean, that was funny. But yeah, it was a good scene. It felt like a nice culmination of like these, or not culmination, but like a good, like these kids can like actually take on the galaxy a little bit now.
Yeah, Nick, it was a little bit like the Galaxy's Edge ride, where you're all doing different jobs in Millennium Falcon.
Yes, 100%. It was a really cool scene. I think the ship looks so much cooler, and I was confused what was happening at first. Like, whoa. And then I was like, oh, it's like another ship in the ship. It's awesome.
Yeah. Makes you wonder why SM-33 told them not to push the button, though.
Yes. I bet you that the ship is not as durable or protected when it sheds its hull, right?
Yeah, so it's less fortified.
Yeah. That's what I would assume.
Yeah. Because it's funny, because the way SM-33 describes probably just a way to scare the kids. He's basically said, like, if you push this thing, we all dead. Is the way he basically described it.
Yeah.
All right.
So it must just be that it's less durable without its hull.
All right. Anything else you guys?
I do agree, it looks a lot better.
Anything else you guys want to get to in this episode, or you want to start getting to the trackers or wrapping up everything?
I want to talk about what's in store for the rest of the series.
I think we should probably table that till predictions.
Sure, let's do that.
All right. So first up, you'll get to our character draft, and Max has not seen the teams yet. So these are the characters we drafted going into the season here. These are the squads. So my team was Hondo Onaka, Emphas Ness from Solo, and Mayfeld from Mandalorian. Pete took Mando, Chopper, and Jason Syndulla, figuring there'd be more kids involved in this show. Nick cooked Carson Tava, Zeb, and Grogu. We each had Nick and I've had near misses. Pete's not come close.
You know what's interesting, and you said it earlier, and I forget what jogged my memory, like, or jogged it. There have not been any cameos, as far as I can tell, in this show.
One.
And it's interesting because I feel like Star Wars just has a lot of.
Max, there was one cameo.
There was one cameo.
If you know who it was, it was in the last episode, episode 5. Do you have any idea?
It's the cameo in the last episode.
It's very out of left field.
I'm assuming it was one of the people that worked at like the spa where Renaud's lair was.
No, not Ed. It was the hut that was in the mud. Was one of the twins from Boba Fett.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a very subtle cameo.
So if one of us were to pick one of the twins, would you have to specify which one? I don't know.
It would never name. You would have said
the twins from Boba Fett. We would have gotten a point there. That's the only way we got a point, right, Mike?
Yeah, the only way we got a point. So basically, the close call I think we've had in this show, where the X-wings in episode 3, when one landed, Nick was like, once Nick saw it wasn't Carson Tava flying the X-wing, it's like, okay, that's not happening. And
I thought it was going to be Carson also.
Yeah. And also, when we back in episode 2, they're at Port Morgo. If you freeze frame it, Hondo's ship is there. We don't see Hondo.
Oh. Okay. It's still very light on the cameos. I mean, I'd consider the other one more like an Easter egg. They're the twins. They feature for like 30 seconds.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you guys are getting shut out right now in the character draft.
I think we're probably gonna get shut out overall. I mean, my guess.
I think we are. I think we had two X-Wing scenes in the show, neither of which show the pilot at all and show them being Carson Teva. So I think that's out. And I think the only chance is Hondo, and it's just not looking good.
I think the only
Hondo was the most likely.
I think it would have to be I think with Hondo, I think it would be I said this last week. I think it still stands. I think the only chance you get is if it's a flashback. It's like a 2-second cameo like Rex was in the Ahsoka episode.
I mean, I guess if you had to put a spot on it, like it might happen next episode, if any episode.
Yeah, is if we
Like
have
they're on the way back to Aladdin and there's some sort of disruption and it's him.
yeah, or we get Jod backstory and we see Hondo there. That's
Right.
the only way I
Well,
can.
you're not like once you get to Aladdin, I think the story ends there and that's it. And obviously, no one from the outside world is there, considering that's the whole point of the planet.
Yeah. All right. So let's also update our trackers here. So as I mentioned last week, Nick, we did go up to 5 Jod aliases. So we can officially confirm Professor Umiam Gorlox is Jod's 5th alias.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And Max, we're also tracking named pirates in this episode. So we got 2 because Jod thankfully pointed out by name 2 people he was like pitching to in the last appeal in Glurb and Cammy. So 8 named pirates this season.
8 named pirates. And Jod was only in well, I guess he was technically in the first episode, but
Yeah.
he's only really in 5 episodes, so 1 alias per episode. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good in alias tracker here. And two other categories we marked here that like are not technically real categories, are more Easter egg categories. Like obviously the battle droid from the Port Morgo when Jod turns one on, and then the other one was like I don't even remember the premiere when Neil's little brother and little siblings were playing the video of the circus characters from the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Yes, that was a funny Easter egg. I also was trying to see if like when Wim is playing with his data pad, there's like a scene where 2 Jedi are fighting. I was like, oh, is that Kenobi versus Vader or Luke versus Vader? It's not. I don't know where that history comes from. Or no, it wouldn't happen because they're in the Old Republic. What am I talking about?
Yeah, if they have no idea the war happens. They're not going to have Luke versus comic books.
Well, you realize that later on,
Yeah.
but yes, at first I thought it was. But yeah, they have the holiday special thing, which was funny.
Yeah. And Nick, I think they did a good job making those recordings look vague enough. You say, oh, he's looking at like Vader versus Kenobi comics or whatever, and then like it's not.
Yes. No, I agree. I completely agree.
All right, so now let's get to our MVP, LVP board. These are the best and worst characters of the season so far, as rated by us. So
Of the season or the episode?
season so far.
Okay.
Well, we're going to be giving hours on the episode today, but this board that's up on the screen now is for the whole season.
Yes. So Neil Longbottom is christened by Pete. Pete said he's Neville Longbottom, so he's Neil Longbottom here. He's +5.
I must have missed that conversation when we talked about that because I'm looking at this now and I go, is his last name Longbottom? I actually believed it for a second.
No, he just said because Pete made the correct point that Neil is Neville Longbottom of Star Wars.
I can see that. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and then we are also listing Jod's aliases on the board. So it's Jod, aka Captain Silvo, aka Crimson Jack, aka Dash Zenton, aka Jotwick Zant, aka Professor Umiyan Gorlox at +5. So they're the tie of the lead, those two. KB at +2, Fern +3, Fern +2. The writers +1 from Pete in the premiere. -1, security droids -1. Hana got -1 because Pete couldn't stand her flipping. Wim's dad got -2. The spa guard from last week got -2. Brutus is down at -3, and a 3-way tie for last with Hana's dad and Wim himself. So that's the board right now. So since Pete will give us his picks next week, it looks like. So Nick, kick us off here. Who's the MVP of the week?
I'm going to give it to Charlie Brown himself. I'm going to get him out of the cellar. I'm going to give it to Wim.
Yeah. All
He did a good job convincing KB, or helping KB, first of all, but convincing KB that she should speak up and have confidence in herself. And I think he did a great job, kind of keeping the crew together.
Max, who you giving it to?
I know this is a KB episode, but I think Fern is the MVP for me. I think she really embraces her leadership style. She has a nice moment of reconciliation with KB. She also saves KB and Fern from the giant crab by piloting that like trash droid thing. I don't know what it's called, but she's piloting it as like a 10-year-old. Uh, and she saves them again when she releases the hull and then flies them all off. So I think Fern's the MVP of the week.
By the way, I forgot to mention as we watched the video here. Did you guys catch the name of the mother crab?
I
No,
saw it on there, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
Tet'niss.
That's kind of funny.
Yeah, it's spelled TET''NISS.
I like that because
that's
they're
funny.
like freaking garbage and stuff. They're gonna get infected.
Yeah, you get a shot if that droid bites you. All right, so I'll round out the MVP section here. I'm going to give it to Fern also because I feel like she does recognize she's wrong with KB, apologize to KB. Her leadership skills are very good here, and good job, getting them out of the mess and like sending them on their way. They had their ship back because of Fern.
Yep.
All right, so other way here, LVP section. Max, who was the worst character of the week?
You know who I'm surprised I didn't see on the board? SM33.
Okay,
I don't think he's not on the board at all, right?
not. So you're gonna put it on the board.
I'm gonna put him on the board as the LVP because he just gets like shot and he's out of the episode. Doesn't really do anything. I've actually really enjoyed his character. He's like a more piratey HK-47, but this week he did not do anything, and therefore he's my LVP.
I'll give it to SN33. That's a great point, Max, because like for how strong he's supposed to be, he gets his ass kicked a lot.
That's true.
Is
By the
he
pirates.
like, we're assuming we won't see him again, right?
We don't know what happened to him because I think the assumption
But it looks,
is that like they
looks like
just
he's left on the planet, right?
it's either he's left in the ditch on a new Lenupa and thrown in the garbage, or they pirates grabbed him and took him with them.
I thought the pirates grabbed him and took him with him. So I'm assuming that Silvo and him have some sort of like he factors into that story with Silvo.
Yeah,
That would be nice. I hope we don't just not see him again. That would be a really bad ending for his character.
plus, I mean, Nick, he was covered with treasure and the pirates were in a hurry. So I don't think they had time to take all the treasure off of SM-33. Probably just grabbed him and said, we'll take it off on the ship.
True.
And I thought it's also a great point on the John thing. It was funny about the episode where like John's trying to make his sales pitch from the pirates. It's like, guys, there's a whole vault down there full of treasure. And they're like, nah, we just want to get you. All right, Nick,
All right.
LVP time for you.
So to me, the LVP is Jod, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Just the position that he was in last episode versus the position he is now in this episode, the difference is so drastic, and he lost so much that I feel like he had to have lost in this episode, making him the least valuable player of the episode. I don't think he did. Usually we do LVPs. It's like, oh, what did someone do that pissed you off, or who was a bad character, who was an asshole in the episode. He was just he had a lightsaber and a whole room full of loot, and now he's a prisoner. And if they don't, and he's possibly going to be executed if they don't like where he takes them.
Yeah, he might get thrown on airlock.
Yeah,
That's true. There's a big reversal of fortune where like the kids are the ones who are kind of down on their luck, and then they escape with the ship, and Jod is now hanging on for his life if he doesn't take them to Ad-Adin.
this I don't think it's
Good
something that
points.
he did wrong. Just
He lost. He lost this episode. You're right.
Yeah.
It's a good point.
Yeah, it's a good point. So next up here, we'll do grade the episode on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 is worse than 1978 Holiday Special. 10 is up there with the Prison Break episode of Andor in terms of the pinnacle of Star Wars content. I'll go first. I'll give this one a 7. I thought it was not as good as the last couple of weeks, but it did a good job of establishing some characters, tell some plot pieces, set us up for a probably 2-part finale is what helped describe. So I'll give it a 7 here. Nick, you can go next.
I'm going to do the exact same. I feel the exact same way you do, but this episode did a fantastic job at one thing, which is, by the way, when it ended, I felt robbed a little bit. Like I thought it was going to keep going, but um, it did a really good job of what it's supposed to do, which is when I see it say, directed by Bryce Dallas Howard, and next episode on the bottom, what do you really want for a show? You want it so the person who's watching it really wants to hit that button that says next episode, and I do. So that did its job, right?
Yeah, I would think so. Max, you want to round us out here?
Yeah. I forgot it was directed by Bryce Dallas Howard. She typically does a good job with these things. I'm gonna give it an 8, and it's mostly because I'm kind of a sap and I enjoy the like Fern and KB reconciliation, and there was just like a nice sweet moment. But it's a very good piece of Star Wars content. I think filler is not the right term. I don't know how much it like advances the plot, but it advances a lot of the characters' individual growth, and I think that matters a lot for the series.
Yeah, Nick, maybe an off-season podcast now. We actually need to have a discussion with Star Wars as to what filler actually means.
Right.
Well, it's like they could have probably wrapped up the like they're getting off this Renaud's planet. I forget what it's called.
Yeah,
Right? They could have probably done that. What?
Lenupa is the name of the planet.
Manupa. Okay. They're getting off Manupa in like 10 minutes, but it's good for like building up who each of these characters are and the crew that they're trying to become. And to me, that is very good for the overall arc of the show.
Yep. Anyway, Pete will fill in next week what he feels about the MVPs and the LVPs and whatnot. But do some predictions now for next week. I know, Nick, we can pick up where you want to let off. You said you had some thoughts about what we might be getting here with the next like episode or two.
No, I actually don't really have strong thoughts. I just kind of want to. I feel like that's they left it open ended, where we really don't know what's going to happen next, and I'm really interested in what's going to happen next. I kind of wanted to discuss it. My assumption is it's too good to be true, in that we kept talking about how it's so cool that all we have to do is go back to Ad-Aden and do whatever goes on there, the quote unquote final battle, whatever you want to call it, the climax. But usually we don't get that till there's one episode left. I feel like they're going to get derailed at some point and they're not going to make it there. Or they're eventually going to make it there, but like something's going to go wrong that puts a little halt in their trip. Some sort of, I don't know, their ship is hijacked or something like that. Something along those lines. So something slows them down where they have to take an episode of, hey, we got to figure this out first, and then when they're done, okay, now we're going.
Yeah. So that's your prediction for next week.
Yeah, something slows them down is my prediction. And before we wrap the episode up, I would like you to obviously say your predictions, but I do want to speak to Max on something else on the episode. So when you're done with your predictions, you can send it back to me.
All right. So Max, what's your prediction for next week?
One is that SM-33 returns. I think he's coming back in episode 7. But
Okay.
I agree with Nick also. I don't think, I agree with Nick a little bit. I don't think that the kids are making it back to Ad-Aden. I don't know whether or not the pirates will make it to Ad-Aden. Maybe they make it there first and the kids come back and they have to like rescue Ad-Aden or whatever. But my prediction is that the kids do not make it to Ad-Aden. And I agree with Nick that it's like too good to be true.
Yeah. I think I disagree with you guys. I think this is sort of a two-part finale set they have here. I think both sides get to Ad-Aden and we end up with a situation where like the kids basically get caught by the pirates at the end of the episode, at the end of episode 7. And then they have to find basically how are we getting out of this at the end of episode 8. I think my prediction is like everybody gets to Ad-Aden, the pirates start running rampage, and the kids get caught.
Well, I guess
Oh, I like that.
yeah. If they do a two-part finale, I could see it being like that, but I guess it depends on what direction they want to take it in.
Because my theory has sort of been that like we still have the Easter egg of episode 3 of like KB being told by Kim, call me if you need me. So my guess is some point, like before they get caught, KB will call Kim for help, say, here's our coordinates, and then the New Republic comes in and saves the day. I think that's how the show is going to end.
And Carson Taylor's there.
I was wondering why they didn't do that this past episode. I was like, don't they have the little buzzer thing?
Yeah. They chose not to use it yet. That's going to get broken.
Carson Teva to show up. Imagine I win the character draft on a last second scene by Carson Teva.
That would fit your luck with these things.
That'd be great.
All right. So, Nick, before you wrap it up here, I know you said you wanted to ask Max something.
I do. So something we discussed last week on the podcast was two people. One is what's that pirate's name, Mike, again?
Akronot.
Legendary pirate.
Yeah, Tack
Tack
Renard.
Renaud. They have the hologram of him, the recording,
Right.
and it's deliberately choppy because I think it's clear as day we know who that character is. I'm not saying I know who it is right now. I'm saying it's someone we know. Otherwise, they
I,
wouldn't have blurred out the face.
Or no
right.
of.
I see what you're saying.
Someone we know or know of. Now, I also think that the other character we don't know, I think we're going to find out, is the supervisor. The supervisor on Manhattan is another character. So our theory, and I'd like to get yours, is that the supervisor and this legendary pirate are the same person. And there was a crash landing on Manhattan. Everybody died except for him, and now he's just being the supervisor, just collecting taxes off these citizens, and just has his own little piggy bank on this planet. And I'm under the impression that it might be SM-33
But then why would SM-33 have been on the ship?
because he was programmed to be the
Supervisor?
the captain. He was programmed to be the captain. I think it's possible.
Yeah. So you think
So you think that SM-33 was programmed to be Tack Renaud, and then he crash lands on this ship, or he crash lands on this planet, and he becomes the supervisor, or he like
Oh.
was the supervisor?
I think he Cranston's become the supervisor. So let me rephrase. This makes a little more sense. I think the supervisor and the legendary pirate are the same person. The SM-33 is just a little theory I have. I'm not necessarily convinced on that. I
so?
do think, though, that they are the same person, and whoever this legendary pirate Tack Renaud is, and the supervisor, we're going to find out, I'm assuming, in the next couple episodes, is someone that we're familiar with, the character, who, or at least we know of, that we've seen before, and I can't really think of any characters that are old enough to fit the bill.
I don't think it's gonna be that. I think we more something of like where maybe like we see some sort of image of the pirate's face, of Renaud's face, and then like we cut to Atten and like Fern's mom goes to meet the supervisor. It's the same guy.
I
I
think it's a character we don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a character we don't know. I think it would just be like see maybe the pirates are like showing the kids like, oh, here's Tack Renaud, and then we go to Fern's mom going to meet the supervisor. It's Tack Renaud.
It's interesting. I just don't know why they would deliberately like
hide the
blur out the
face.
face, hide the face if it wasn't someone, if you know.
I mean, it could be the theory that Tack Renaud is also the supervisor is interesting, and I agree with you that like there has to be some mystery or some importance behind who the supervisor and Tack Renaud are. Otherwise, why show it? My thought was honestly the supervisor is just a computer. Like I don't think it's an actual person. I think it's a machine that's running at Adam. And I guess that could factor into the Tack Renaud thing if Tack Renaud is just some sort of like hologram that the computer projects. But I don't know. I hadn't thought about who Tack Renaud was.
Do you think Tack Renaud could be like a Wizard of Oz situation?
Yeah, I guess that is kind of what I'm saying, right? That like he's just an appearance, but behind the scenes it's just the computer supervisor.
Yeah. Okay, that's not a bad theory because like they had pulled some of these fairy tales and pirate stories, so like would be something like a little man behind the curtain reveal here in the finale. Like the supervisor is just like I mean we see that the operation on at Atten is basically supervised by droids, so not out of the question that
I don't want to create our situation where we're getting our tinfoil hats and putting them on and getting really after these conspiracy theories, but I did see on Reddit that somebody did a little analysis on the hologram, and they basically narrowed it down that the species is a, how do I pronounce this? A Wookiee,
yeah Hondo species.
which is the Hondo species. So if you want to get your tinfoil hat on and say that Hondo is the supervisor and the legendary pirate, it is possible. Although I would, again, you would need a tinfoil hat for that.
Well, maybe Tack Renaud could be like Hondo's great grandfather or something.
Maybe.
Yeah. It'd be fun to have like Jim Cummings' voice show back up and be like kid, let's talk to you about business.
I can't believe
Yes.
it's not in the show so Andor. I really can't believe it.
Yeah.
No, we're almost through the show.
I can't. I'm just saying I can't believe Hondo hasn't been in the show. I really can't.
It's the pirate show, and he's not here.
And if you were going to put him in, I think it makes more sense to throw him in the beginning. Like episode 2 was perfect for him to just show up and just be on there, just have a quick, 1 minute scene.
Yeah. It would have
It's
been.
kind of nice though that they've, I think, kept it away from the cameo. Like, I don't know. It sets it apart as its own thing.
I do agree. I feel the same way. That's why the same way I feel about Andor. Too. I mean, obviously there are some cameos they can't avoid. Like they have to throw Krennic in the show. I mean, it just makes sense. But they've done
And
a good job
Andor is in and of himself a cameo.
Exactly. Yeah,
Right? 'Cause
that's what I was saying. My fear getting too Hollywood. My fear is like you throw Vader and the Emperor and Tarkin and Obi-Wan in there, and then you lose me. And the show just gets crazy.
Yes.
Right.
If we like all of a sudden, like if we had been hitting our character drift all season, like we're all of a sudden like Mando and Grogu are here helping the kids for an episode, and then like they run into Bo-Katan for an episode, like that would have like lost Nick.
Right. And it's kind of nice that, I mean, I'll grant you, like, I thought The Mandalorian did a nice job with that in season 2, but it's sort of nice that they haven't had to rely on that to drive the story. Like, it's an independent story. It's independent storytelling. You don't need other Star Wars stars. It's just, hey, here's a good show in the Star Wars universe.
All right, so I think that's a good place to wrap it up here, unless you guys have anything else you want to add.
Nope.
All right, so Max, thanks again for coming on. Really appreciate it. Always fun chatting with you. So hopefully we'll see you back here at some point during Andor 2.
Yeah. Or for the, more skeleton crew, obviously, I have to come back on for that too.
All right, sounds fun. Nick, people want to follow social media. One more time, how can I do that?
Follow at Sky Guys Podcast on Instagram, Twitter X, and TikTok.
Yeah, you can also follow me on social media, mphillips331. It's MPHILIPS 331. As you go around the Just on the Suffering podcast, you look back on the year on podcast moments from 2024. So a friend of the Sky Guys, Dan DiMarti, came aboard, listened to some great moments from the podcast, and some fun predictions came through as well. So check out episodes as well. Plus week 18 NFL picks as the regular season comes to a close. And Nick's team ruined his draft position last week of the win over the Colts.
What was that?
Your team ruined his draft position.
Talking about the Giants?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. It's still possible. It's still possible to get a top 3, and I feel like that's all that really matters, but need some help.
Yeah. They need some help.
Need a Titans win.
Or a Patriot win.
Yeah. The Titans one seems a little more realistic considering they are actually favored, but, week 18, anything can happen.
Yeah, that's for sure. We'll be back next week. We will cover episode 7 of Skeleton Crew. And Nick, just to let the audience know here, it looks like our target here will be back on Wednesday next week, not the holidays where we don't have episodes here on Christmas Eve.
Right, back with a returning guest who has not been on since, I believe, Ahsoka.
Yeah, it's been a minute. So we'll get that guest on next week. Until then, may the Force be with you.